Here's something that troubles comfortable people. Genuine prosperity requires far less income than society claims. Yet this truth remains buried under layers of social conditioning. We've been programmed like laboratory animals to associate well-being with earnings rather than wisdom. This represents the primary and most hazardous myth of contemporary existence. You cannot outpace foolishness with salary increases. Regardless of earnings, without self-governance, insolvency awaits. The difference is merely upgraded possessions accompanying your sleepless nights. Over 70 years, I've observed this cycle repeatedly. Educated individuals, impressive careers, substantial incomes, yet perpetually broke. Not from misfortune, but from refusing rational choices. They cannot resist consumerism's siren song, and our culture has masterfully amplified that song to deafening volumes. Marketing has transformed thrift into embarrassment, moderation into suffering, and wisdom into want. Let me be direct, they haven't. Spending beneath your capacity isn't sacrifice, it's emancipation. When overhead stays minimal, you command your hours. When commitments remain light, you can abandon foolishness. That's authentic liberty. But most desire validation, not freedom. They prefer appearing prosperous over being prosperous. They'll sacrifice years of tranquility just to impress indifferent strangers. Throughout my life, I've witnessed identical patterns. People pursuing raises, promotions, luxuries, believing increased income will cure thinking errors. It never succeeds. Poor habits cannot be remedied with larger paychecks. You merely magnify your errors. If managing 1,000 proves difficult, 10,000 won't suddenly become manageable. If saving on 50,000 seems impossible, 200,000 will leave you equally destitute. Only now you'll have finer clothes and superior vehicles masking the arithmetic. Mathematics ignores emotions. It simply compounds decisions, beneficial or destructive. Here's what eludes most: the actual requirement. For comfortable living is substantially smaller than assumed. Because comfort isn't income's product, it's clarity's byproduct. Constant indebtedness isn't mandatory. Purchasing forgotten wants isn't required. Impressing anyone isn't necessary. You simply need to stop pretending immunity to mathematics. Warren and I constructed Berkshire on straightforward principles. Consume less than earned. Invest surplus. Continue indefinitely. That's wealth's entire formula. But simplicity doesn't guarantee ease because discipline is required. And discipline lacks popularity. The world markets excitement, not prudence. No advertisement suggests buying nothing and maintaining solvency. There's no profit in teaching clear thinking. Therefore, you must train yourself, prioritize tranquility over thrills, clarity over chaos, sovereignty over convenience. Want comfortable living? Begin with minimal bills, because rising bills mean falling freedom. Every subscription, loan, unnecessary expense chains you further. If peaceful sleep requires Friday's paycheck, you're not living freely. You're leasing peace of mind, and leased peace always ends. Modern existence manufactures commitments. Industrially, you begin modestly, streaming services, vehicle financing, then larger homes because you've earned it, then furnishing that house, insuring that car, gadgets for that lifestyle, until awakening one morning, laboring merely to sustain your self-created machine. It's a subtle snare. You don't notice the tightening because each addition seems sensible, but reasonable items summed become ruinous. The faster this treadmill runs, the faster it accelerates. The sole victory method is stepping off. How? Through intentional simplicity, not deprivation, just clarity. Begin documenting monthly obligations. List every recurring charge, every forgotten automatic payment. Then pose one harsh question. If employment vanished tomorrow, how long before panic arrives? Most survive less than 30 days. That's not living. That's gambling with stability. Wealthy individuals think differently. They construct what Warren and I term margin of safety. We employ this investment principle. Don't get eliminated. Design life to endure extended droughts. The primary margin builder isn't earning more. It's owing less. Reduced expenses mean increased endurance. It provides time, options, and the capacity to refuse stupidity. And stupidity arrives regularly. I remember young Omaha days. I watched people spend like immortals. They believed money was limitless and time was cheap. Now I observe their aged versions, bitter, exhausted, still financing lives they no longer enjoy. When happiness attaches to consumption, it expires as rapidly as new gadget batteries. But when attached to independence, it compounds quietly. Minimal bills do more than save money. They protect sanity. They remove morning anxiety. You stop awakening worried about interest rates or terminations or today's market because you've already built a smaller, smarter vessel weathering any storm. When people ask about getting rich, I tell them, start by not acting broke. And acting broke doesn't mean earning less. It means needing less. Every unnecessary bill is tiny freedom surrendered. Every fixed payment is a promise made to labor harder merely to maintain position. The tragedy is most consider that normal. They think budgeting is punishment. But truth is, budgeting is self-respect. It's telling your future self, I won't betray you. Simply tracking expenditures changes behavior. Because once you see the leak, you start repairing the pipe. You cannot fix what you refuse to measure. That's why even simple written lists, income minus expenses, prove more powerful than most financial software. It forces confronting numbers, not excuses. And once you see clearly, you start cutting mercilessly. Cancel forgotten subscriptions. Refinance or eliminate high-interest debt. Stop upgrading perfectly functional items. And please, don't treat discounts as savings. A discount on unnecessary items is still waste. The goal isn't miserable living. It's building breathing space. Making sure one broken appliance or car repair doesn't collapse your entire plan. Because if one surprise expense can destroy your finances, that's not surprise. That's design flaw. Minimal bills aren't just about money. They're about mental space. When fixed costs are small, you can take risks, invest aggressively, and live calmly. When they're enormous, you're trapped. You become paycheck slave, regardless of size. I've met countless professionals unable to quit hated jobs, not from lacking income, but from excessive bills. They purchase golden handcuffs, attractive, shiny, suffocating. Remember, the goal is freedom, not luxury. And freedom's path begins with subtraction, not addition. Lower your monthly burn rate, you automatically raise peace of mind. Every dollar not owed is a dollar compounding for you. Every avoided bill is another brick protecting your independence. Now, let's discuss what most people misunderstand. They think wealth concerns earnings. It doesn't. It concerns what you retain. You cannot outpace foolishness. I'll repeat, because it needs repeating. Earn $1 million, spend $1 million. You're not wealthy. You're temporarily solvent. That's why the smartest people I know live beneath their means, not at or above them. When young, I observed a peculiar pattern. The janitor saving 10% of every dollar retired peacefully. The lawyer spending 110% of every dollar retired with regret. What matters is the gap between incoming and outgoing. That gap is your freedom. That's your life's margin of safety. It's what permits investing, thinking clearly, abandoning stupidity when you see it approaching. If lifestyle expands whenever income rises, you're just running faster on identical treadmills. People call it upgrading their life. I call it upgrading their anxiety. The truth is harsh but necessary. You will never have enough if you can't be satisfied with enough. Every overspent dollar buys temporary highs and permanent obligations. You become addicted to living standards that don't belong to you. I once said compounding's first rule is never interrupt it unnecessarily. That doesn't just apply to investments. It applies to behavior. If you're constantly interrupting savings by chasing shiny things, compounding never gets its chance. And compounding is the world's eighth wonder if given time. Here's a simple rule I've followed lifelong. Earn 1,000, live on 500, invest the remainder. Do it long enough and you'll be amazed because small surpluses compounded over decades beat large paychecks squandered monthly every single time. Living beneath means doesn't mean living miserably. It means designing life intelligently, owning fewer better things, keeping obligations light, having more room to think and breathe. I know people who built fortunes just by not acting foolishly. They weren't geniuses. They were consistent. They knew that debt-built comfort isn't comfort, it's camouflage. Most folks chase financial freedom like it's lottery. But freedom is just discipline repeated quietly over many years. It's not a prize you win. It's a habit you build. When you live beneath means strange things happen. You stop caring about keeping up. You stop comparing. You stop needing. That's when compounding starts working for you instead of against you. Every saved dollar is a soldier fighting for your independence. Every impulse purchase is a deserter. And most people keep sending their soldiers to die in vanity's war. The irony is, once you stop living for appearances, life actually improves. Less clutter, less debt, more peace. You realize that happiness is not consumption's function, it's control's result. You'll hear people say, you only live once, so spend it. That's idiotic because if you spend it all, you only live once before. Going broke. The smarter version, you only live once, so live with foresight. Every money decision is really a time decision. Spend recklessly, and you trade future years for present moments. Spend wisely, and you buy back decades of calm. That's the real luxury, time and peace, not toys and brands. Here's a test I give people. If you lost your job today, how many months could you stay home? If the answer is none, then you don't own your lifestyle. It owns you. Living beneath means builds what Warren and I call optionality. It lets you take risks, invest aggressively, or simply rest without fear. It's how you make sure the game doesn't end before you're done playing. Most people make the mistake of believing success buys security. It doesn't. Only restraint does. The best investors, the happiest retirees, the calmest people I know all practice restraint like religion. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't compound what you don't save. And you can't save if you can't control yourself. So before you look for the next stock or the next raise or the next scheme, look at your habits. If your expenses rise every time your income does, you're not progressing. You're inflating. And sooner or later, bubbles burst. The smartest move isn't making another dollar. It's mastering the urge to spend the one you already have. If you do that long enough, wealth becomes inevitable. Not because you found a shortcut, but because you stopped doing stupid things. Now, here's something most people fail to understand about unexpected money. Bonuses, tax refunds, overtime pay, inheritance. That's the moment most people fail the intelligence test. They call it extra money as if it's free. So they spend it like it's free, and in a few weeks, it's gone and they can't even remember what it bought. Let me be clear. How you handle unexpected money tells me everything about your financial maturity. If you waste it, you're impulsive. If you plan it, you're building a future. When you get a little more than usual, don't rush to treat yourself. Pause, think, ask a simple question. What will this dollar do for me a year from now? If the answer is nothing, you're about to commit a small financial crime against yourself. You don't have to be a genius to get rich. You just have to stop acting like an idiot when you get lucky. I've watched people turn small windfalls into lifelong leverage. They didn't celebrate with vacations or new cars. They paid off debt. They built emergency funds. They bought assets that quietly worked while they slept. Meanwhile, others blew the same money on shiny distractions and then wondered why life never got easier. Luck is wasted on the undisciplined. Every purposefully treated dollar compounds. Every carelessly spent dollar disappears and teaches you nothing. That's why I always tell young people, when extra money shows up, act like it won't come again, because often it won't. If you don't assign it a job, it will find trouble, and money loves trouble. Plan before it arrives. That's what responsible people do. They already know. If I get a bonus, 50% goes to investments, 30% to debt, 20% to life enjoyment. Simple, predictable, rational, no emotions involved. You see, emotion is what destroys financial progress. People get a taste of success and instantly want to advertise it. They forget that quiet money compounds. Loud money disappears. You don't need to live like a monk, but you do need to live like a strategist, because money without a plan will always flow towards stupidity. When you plan where every extra dollar goes, you remove randomness from your life, and randomness is what ruins most people. The difference between those who get rich and those who stay stuck isn't opportunity, it's discipline. Discipline with what looks small today. That small bonus you invested might pay your mortgage 20 years from now. That tax refund you used to pay off debt might save you decades of interest. That extra paycheck you put in an index fund instead of a vacation might give you freedom when everyone else is still working. People underestimate how fast discipline compounds. They think it's just a few hundred. But a few hundred invested wisely and repeatedly turns into independence faster than you think. The world doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. Consistency looks boring, but it wins. Here's how I think about it. Every dollar you earn has a choice. It can work for you or against you. If you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, it recruits more dollars to your army. Over time, that small army becomes an empire. The tragedy is that most people never give their dollars a chance to work. They fire them the moment they arrive. It's not the market that keeps people poor. It's the absence of a plan. They don't lose money because they're unlucky. They lose it because they behave predictably badly. You don't need to be perfect, just intentional. If you get a bonus, have a plan. If you get a refund, have a plan. If you get a windfall, have a plan. Because the moment you start planning, you stop gambling. And wealth has never been built on gambling, only on patience and reason. Let me address something that makes people uncomfortable. Shopping has become the modern religion. Temples everywhere, open 7 days a week, and every sermon says the same thing. You deserve it. Well, the graveyards are full of people who deserved it. I'm not against comfort. I'm against stupidity, and most spending today is just stupidity dressed up as self-care. You walk into a store for one thing and leave with 5. You open an app just to browse, and somehow you bought another gadget you'll forget in a week. That's not bad luck. That's engineered behavior. Corporations spend billions studying how to make you click buy now. They know your impulses better than you do, and every impulsive purchase is a little victory for them and a little defeat for you. That's why I have a simple rule that saved me millions over my lifetime. Never buy anything the same day you want it. Wait 24 hours. If you still want it tomorrow, maybe it's worth it. But you'll be surprised how often desire evaporates faster than reason returns. The 24-hour rule sounds trivial, but it's a form of discipline. And discipline is wealth's bodyguard. When you delay gratification, you take power back from the world trying to sell you comfort at compound interest. Because make no mistake, debt is comfort's hangover. Most entertainment works the same way. It's marketed as reward. You've worked hard, so now you deserve to escape. But escape costs money, and escape repeated often enough becomes dependency. I've seen people spend half their income on fun. Concerts, dinners, events, weekends that vanish faster than receipts fade. They confuse stimulation with satisfaction. You can enjoy yourself without bankrupting yourself. You just have to ask, is this pleasure or is this compensation? Most people don't want joy. They want distraction from a life they don't control. When you fix the foundation, when you're not drowning in bills, when you're investing wisely, you don't need as much entertainment. Your life itself becomes peaceful enough that you're not desperate for escape. There's nothing wrong with enjoying life, but enjoyment without boundaries becomes erosion. So set limits. If you love dining out, plan it once a week, guilt-free, fully enjoyed, but not every night out of boredom or habit. The trick isn't to remove pleasure, it's to give it context. Pleasure should be spice, not the main dish. And remember, not all entertainment is created equal. Some feeds you, some empties you. A good book costs $10 and can change your perspective for decades. A random night out can cost $200 and leave you with nothing but a headache. If you must spend on things that compound in value, education, health, relationships. The returns on those are exponential. Everything else depreciates the moment you touch it. Impulse spending is emotional investing with guaranteed losses. That's why marketers always target your feelings, never your logic, because logic doesn't buy. Emotion does. But the older you get, the clearer it becomes. Satisfaction doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from control, from being able to look at something you could buy and saying, no, I'd rather keep my freedom. Every time you resist an impulse, your financial muscles grow stronger. Every time you give in, you feed the weakness that keeps you poor. The real luxury isn't in what you own. It's in what you can walk away from. A person who can say, no life's better than the one who says yes to everything. That's why restraint is underrated. It doesn't trend, but it's the foundation under every lasting fortune. Most people chase dopamine, not dividends. They get the thrill of spending, then the dread of bills. It's a cycle of momentary joy and long-term regret. The rational person breaks that cycle by questioning every purchase, every craving, every illusion. Ask yourself, do I want this, or was I told to want this? Is this purchase adding meaning or just removing boredom? The honest answers will save you a fortune. If you practice this long enough, you'll notice something strange. You start enjoying what you already have. You realize you didn't need more. You just needed perspective. Now, let's talk about something nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to practice: research before purchase. People spend weeks researching a vacation, but 5 minutes buying a car. They'll compare Netflix shows for an hour, but won't spend 10 minutes reading a product review before dropping thousands of dollars. That's not poverty, that's negligence, and negligence is expensive. I've seen this pattern my whole life. People think they're saving time, but what they're really doing is trading intelligence for convenience. And convenience, when it comes to money, is a very costly luxury. Let me tell you something simple that Warren and I have practiced our entire careers. Every purchase is an investment decision. You're trading capital for utility. And if you don't understand the value, you're gambling. It's no different from buying stocks. When you buy a company, you study its fundamentals, profits, debts, durability. When you buy a car, a washing machine, or even a laptop, the logic should be the same. But most people don't do that. They just pick what's shiny and hope for the best. Hope in finance or in shopping is a terrible strategy. When you fail to research, you pay for ignorance twice, once with money and again with regret, because ignorance always compounds faster than interest. Here's the thing, products aren't equal. 2 washing machines might look identical, but one lasts 10 years and the other breaks in 3. Buy the cheap one twice, and congratulations, you've paid more for less. That's not saving money. That's prepaying for stupidity. Research turns spending into strategy. It converts impulse into intelligence. It forces you to slow down long enough to ask, what am I really buying? A lot of people hate that question. They don't want to think, they want to consume. But thinking is what protects you from traps designed for the impulsive. And in case you haven't noticed, the world is full of traps. They call them limited time offers. Act now. Only 2 left in stock. All designed to disable your brain because your brain, if you use it, ruins their business model. If you want to live intelligently, make thinking a reflex. Do your homework before you hand over your wallet. Every hour of research you invest saves hours of frustration later. Warren and I built our fortune by doing something most people are too lazy to do. We read a lot. We study, compare, analyze, question. That habit applies to everything, not just stocks. Buying a home? Understand property taxes, maintenance costs, resale value. Buying a car? Learn the repair record, fuel efficiency, depreciation curve. Buying a new gadget? Check the property taxes, lifespan, replacement cost, compatibility. If you don't understand it, don't buy it. That's a simple rule, but most ignore it and pay dearly. People love saying time is money, but they forget that ignorance costs more than patience ever will. A few hours of research might save you thousands. That's a trade even a fool should take. But most don't because the modern world rewards speed over sense. They want it now. They click before they think. Then they wonder why they're broke and unhappy. You don't need to be paranoid, just rational. Compare, ask questions, look for durability, not decoration. A good purchase should make your life easier, not your wallet lighter. The rich don't buy cheap. They buy smart. They pay for value, not for trends. That's why their things last longer, because their thinking does. When you treat every dollar as an investment, your brain starts working differently. You stop saying, can I afford this? And start asking, is this worth it? That single question will save you more money than any discount ever could. The irony is research doesn't just save money. It builds character. It trains patience, discipline, skepticism, the same traits that build wealth. You can't be reckless with little money and expect to be wise with large sums. Habits compound just like capital. So before you buy anything, big or small, do the boring work. Learn, compare, verify. Don't let marketing think for you, because if someone else is doing your thinking, they're also doing your spending. The market preys on laziness. Your best defense is diligence. A person who reads fine print will always beat the one who clicks accept without looking. It's not luck, it's literacy. Now, here's something that separates the wealthy from the perpetually broke. Maintenance. Most people are great at buying things. They're terrible at keeping them alive. They'll spend months picking the right car, then skip the oil changes. They'll brag about owning a house, but ignore the roof until it leaks. They'll invest in their health, then eat like they're trying to die early. That's not bad luck. That's bad maintenance. And bad maintenance is one of the most expensive habits in the world. You see, most people think wealth is about accumulation, but real wealth is about preservation. What's the point of earning if you can't keep what you already have from falling apart? In business, we call it capital preservation. In life, it's called common sense. A well-maintained machine lasts decades. A neglected one dies early and takes your wallet with it. It's the same with your body, your home, your relationships, and your mind. Everything deteriorates if you don't give it attention. Entropy is nature's favorite hobby. Let me put it this way. Preventive care is cheaper than repair in every area of life. People ignore their cars until they break, their roofs until they leak, their teeth until they ache, their finances until they collapse. Then they panic and call it an emergency. No, it's not an emergency. It's negligence coming due. I learned early on that small maintenance costs compound positively. A $50 oil change prevents a $5,000 engine failure. A $200 checkup prevents a $20,000 hospital bill. A single conversation can prevent a friendship from rotting. And yet, people skip all three because they're busy. Busy is the favorite excuse of the incompetent. They're too busy to maintain what matters, then somehow find endless time to fix what they could have easily prevented. I've seen companies run by brilliant executives collapse because they stopped checking the fundamentals, and I've seen individuals go broke for the same reason. The principle doesn't change. Neglect compounds faster than interest. That's why I always tell people, your job isn't to constantly chase new things. It's to make sure the old ones keep working. In investing, we maintain discipline. In life, we maintain systems. It's the same muscle. You don't get rich by chasing every shiny opportunity. You get rich by keeping what's already working in top shape. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it's profitable. Because maintenance of any kind is simply care translated into time. And the market always rewards care. Let's take your home. Most people treat it like a museum. They admire it, but don't manage it. A leaky faucet turns into mold. Mold turns into renovation. Renovation turns into debt. Had they just spent an afternoon fixing the faucet, they'd still have their savings and their sanity. Or take your body. It's the only machine you'll ever own that can't be replaced. But people treat it worse than their cars. They refuel with junk, skip maintenance, and act surprised when it fails. They say health is wealth, but they forget that wealth without health is a museum exhibit, nice to look at, useless to live with. Even your mind needs maintenance. Read, reflect, relearn. Otherwise, it rusts. And rusted thinking costs more than any broken appliance ever could. And don't forget your reputation. That's another asset that requires regular care. One bad decision can destroy decades of credibility. Reputation, like machinery, must be oiled by consistency and protected from corrosion by stupidity. Maintenance in every sense is an act of humility. It's admitting that things decay and that you're not above that law. Only fools believe success makes them invincible. Wise people know it only gives them more to protect. When you maintain something, you're saying, I respect the cost of replacement more than the inconvenience of prevention. That's rational. That's proper thinking. And here's the hidden benefit. Maintenance builds discipline. The same mindset that changes your car's oil on time will pay your taxes early, rebalance your portfolio, and check your assumptions before they ruin you. If you're sloppy in one area, you'll be sloppy in all of them. Habits don't compartmentalize, they replicate. So treat maintenance as a philosophy, not a chore, because maintaining what you have is the only way to deserve more. Finally, let me address the heart of rational living, prioritization. If you try to buy everything, you'll eventually own nothing that matters. Money is finite, attention is finite, and the biggest mistake people make is pretending both are infinite. That's why prioritization isn't just smart, it's survival. You can't have it all, but you can have what's important. The problem is most people never stop to ask what that actually is. They buy what others admire, not what they value. They chase comfort without clarity. And when everything becomes a priority, nothing really is. I've seen millionaires and paupers make the same mistake, confusing spending with living. They think buying more things fills the saya, emptiness of not knowing what truly matters. But it doesn't. It only amplifies the noise. Let me tell you a secret most won't like. A comfortable life isn't built by adding. It's built by subtracting. Subtract the unnecessary. Subtract the envy. Subtract the noise. What remains? That's where your peace and purpose live. You don't need to cut joy out of your life. You just need to rank it. There's a difference between what's nice and what's necessary. between pleasure and priority. Sit down and write it out. 5 things that truly improve your life, not the things you think you should have. The things that when you have them make you calmer, wiser, and freer. That's your compass. Everything else is a distraction. For one person, it might be family dinners. For another, solitude. For someone else, books, travel, or health. The list doesn't matter. The clarity does. Because once you know your top 5, every financial decision gets easier. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this deserve space in my life?" When you prioritize, you reclaim control. You stop living reactively. You stop buying things out of boredom or insecurity. You start spending like an investor, allocating capital toward happiness that compounds. Yes, happiness can compound. If you spend on things that actually matter, their returns multiply over time. A good education compounds. Good health compounds. Good relationships compound. The rest depreciates faster than your latest phone. So, before spending, pause and ask, will this still matter to me in 5 years? If the answer is no, it's probably a waste. This kind of thinking may sound cold, but it's not. It's clarity. And clarity is the foundation of peace. Even rich people need to prioritize. In fact, they need it. More because options multiply confusion. The poor person wastes because they have too little. The rich person wastes because they have too much. In both cases, the disease is the same: lack of focus. If you can learn to prioritize on a small income, you'll be invincible when you have more. Because money doesn't change your behavior, it amplifies it. If you're reckless when you're broke, you'll be catastrophic when you're rich. And that's why learning to live on less is a form of training. You're teaching yourself to think, to choose, to differentiate. That's real intelligence, not IQ, but judgment. When you spend deliberately, you also start appreciating deliberately. Gratitude grows where chaos used to be. You stop needing constant novelty to feel alive. You start valuing the quiet satisfaction of having enough. Enough is a beautiful word. It's the dividing line between wealth and misery. You cross it the moment you realize more isn't better. Better is better. I've met plenty of people with less money than me, but I've met very few with less worry. That's because money doesn't eliminate worry. Discipline does. A low-income life lived intelligently is more peaceful than a high-income life lived stupidly. It's clearer, surer, freer. You don't wake up panicking about payments or layoffs or what the market's doing today because you've chosen simplicity over spectacle. Spend on what's valuable to you, not what signals value to others. If you enjoy a good meal, budget for it. If you love books, buy them. If you crave experiences, plan them. But do it consciously, not because an advertisement told you what happiness should look like. This is the paradox of money. The less you need, the richer you become, because real wealth is freedom from need. The people who master money aren't those chasing more. They're the ones who learned when to stop. So if you want to live well on a low income, don't think smaller, think clearer. Ask yourself every day, what do I truly value? What can I live without? And what will I still care about when the noise fades? Answer those honestly, and you'll never feel poor again. Because the richest person in the world isn't the one with the most. It's the one who can say with complete calm, I already have enough. That's freedom. That's wealth. That's the rational life.